beautiful soul. Thanks for joining me today. It's Lisa Stroda. And, I want to talk a little bit about intimacy and how to rekindle intimacy after having a baby. First of all, I'm going to apologize for my furnace. You might hear it kicking on and off in the background. And this topic I gave a talk on a few months ago. And I was working with an occupational therapist who talks about pelvic floor issues. And so she talked about more of the physical reasons why, you wouldn't want to have sex after having a baby. And so I talk about the emotional part of it. And so what do you suppose, what do you hear after you have a baby, right? Hey, congratulations, you had a baby. Or another baby. That's wonderful. But now you're thinking, I want my partner back. Or maybe not. Or you may be thinking, why isn't my partner as excited to get back in the saddle as I am? Well, a new parent is dealing with, lingering pain from delivery, raging hormones, baby blues, or postpartum depression, right? Weird body changes. And of course, the biggest libido thing, killing thing, right, is the pure exhaustion of having a brand spanking new infant. So, of course, the next thing you're thinking about is sex. Not how nice it would be to have a warm shower or 3 hours of straight sleep or maybe an hour to yourself. Right? Here, take it slow. There is no normal standard as to when you should initiate your sex life. Most healthcare providers recommend that you wait 6 weeks before resuming sexual intercourse because the risk of having a complication after delivery is highest during the first couple weeks after delivery. I had a neighbor, and she had a baby, and she had a baby. And she went in for a 6-week checkup. And so, everything checks out okay. And so she's leaving the office and the doctor says, okay, see you next month. And she says, what do you mean, see me next month? You only see pregnant women month to month. And he looks at her and and she goes, oh, I'm pregnant. And he says, yeah. And she said, so she had a baby. And the first one was Valentine's Day. And then she had one in November. So, this check with your medical professional to make sure that you're healing correctly before you have sex. And, it's time to get reacquainted with your body. So, the hormone progesterone shifts into high gear while lactating, which can lower your sex drive. Body image also affects sexual desire. You may be carrying extra weight, have leaky breasts, healing from a C-section scar, maybe feeling self-conscious, or even shame around your body. The vagina atrophies due to hormonal shifts. This causes the walls of the vagina to become thin, dry, inflamed, and sore. So it's no wonder that intimacy isn't on your mind. Hormonal shifts can last as long as one breastfeeds, and it takes the body time to adjust to a pre-pregnancy state. Dr. Rebecca Booth, gynecologist and author of The Venus Week, says nursing releases oxytocin, a hormone that triggers good feelings toward the baby, but also suppresses your libido. Anthropologically speaking, keeping your sex drive low is your body's way of preventing another pregnancy too soon. Patients are always relieved to find out there's a reason they're not as into sex. So be aware of signs of postpartum depression, mood swings, sadness, social withdrawal, loss of appetite, thoughts of harm to you or the baby. A third of women report lower sexual desire. And they fall into the trap of anticipating intercourse not being enjoyable. So when you get into a power struggle of intercourse or nothing with their partner, nothing always wins. So how do you restore intimacy with your partner? According to psychologist and sex therapist Dr. Barry McCarthy, he says, first, most couples want a satisfying relationship. Second, they want a secure relationship, which is totally different than stable. Third is they want it to be sexual. Sex plays a healthy 15 to 20% role in a relationship, whether married, partnered, straight, or gay. Sexual avoidance plays a large negative part and tears at a relationship and a couple to divorce. When couples divorce early in a relationship, it is almost always sex problems. In the first 5 years of marriage, the sex was great, but they never found their sexual style. He says good sex cannot save a bad relationship, but bad sex can destroy a relationship. Sex cannot only be defined by intercourse. A better model defines sex by pleasure, such as sensual touch, erotic scenarios, playful scenarios. I discovered this sex model when I was researching the child abuse scandal of the Catholic Church. And as I was reading articles, one said that this sex model could be used to help priests integrate their sexuality into their life, even though they're celibate, right? So I thought, this is interesting. I wonder what this is. This is all about. It's called the Good Enough Sex Model. And the Good Enough Sex Model, which was created by Dr. Metz, METZ. And he was a partner in a practice with Dr. Barry McCarthy. The Good Enough Sex Model recognizes that among satisfied couples, the quality of sex varies from day to day and from very good to mediocre to even dysfunctional. The essence of sexuality is not individual sexual performance. It is a couple sharing pleasure that has multiple roles, meanings, and outcomes. Intimacy is the ultimate focus, with pleasure as important as function, and mutual emotional acceptance as the environment. Couples need to transition to a style from the early phase of the relationship of romantic love. That limerence stage. It usually lasts between 6 months and 2 years. That phase. But even when things aren't going well, such as you lose your job, there's stress with the kids, you've gained 20 pounds, you deserve pleasure-oriented touch. The essence of sex isn't visual stimuli, but giving and receiving pleasure-oriented touch. Sex is about sharing pleasure. Be open to a range of sexual experiences. Women have to be an equitable sexual partner, not a secondary sexual partner, like McCarthy says. Women have to find their sexual voice, and you can only say yes, and this goes for men and women, you can only say yes to sex unless you can say no to sex. Accept your sexuality as it is and not as it was prior to having a baby. I think that is a key point. Because you know what? It's not going to go back to before baby or babies. You know, now you have this other person in your life. And you're thinking, oh, well, if we could just, if we didn't have the baby, wouldn't it be as tired? I would, your hormones wouldn't be fluctuating. You wouldn't have all the stress. So what do? You take a trip, you go away for the weekend. And that could help a little bit because now, okay, you don't have that distraction, but you know what? You have the residual effects of that distraction. You're still tired. Your mind may be somewhere else, right? On the kids and what's going on next week because you have to get them, you have to get them dressed. You have to get them fed. You have to take them to daycare. You have to pick them up from daycare. You have to take them to school, all these things. Not to mention your job and other things that you're involved with. So if you're thinking about, it would be great if we could, if our sex life can be like before the baby arrived, it's never going to be like before the baby arrived. So there's a new mantra in the sex therapy field: desire, pleasure, eroticism, and satisfaction. So desire is being open to giving and receiving touch, anticipation, change, variety. And variety, they mean no predictability. And being personally and relationally energized. Pleasure, giving and receiving pleasure-oriented touch and non-demand pleasuring. So, right, it can be one way. It doesn't have to be both ways. I'm talking about obligation, feeling obligated if, you're not in the mood. You shouldn't feel obligated to perform or to reciprocate. Pleasure has a value in and of itself and also serves as a bridge to arousal and intercourse. Eroticism. So what do you think of when I say eroticism? Most people will say porn. That's not what I'm talking about. Porn is not eroticism. Taking emotional and sexual risks, sexual vitality, mystery, and creativity is eroticism. And satisfaction, feeling emotionally and sexually attached to your partner, feeling bonded and secure. A key to being satisfied is developing afterplay scenarios, which Dr. McCarthy talks about in his book. And it's not just, we're finished, okay, let's roll over and go to sleep. It's talking afterwards. It's maybe preparing a meal afterwards. It's holding each other afterwards. That's what he's talking about. The most important is desire, and the second is satisfaction. This mantra is motivating instead of arousal, orgasm, intercourse, which has failed to produce perfect sex. Satisfaction, believe it or not, is more important than orgasm. The meaning of this mantra is to change the male-female power struggle over intercourse. Intercourse with it being the be-all, end-all, right? And sex being a pass-fail test. And focus on sharing pleasure and eroticism. Sex can be functional, but not feed desire. The first thing that turns women off after a sexual experience is, what do you think? What do you think it is? Huh? Any guesses? It is when he says, "Did you come?" Ugh, please. if you need to ask, really. Don't look at female orgasm as a performance goal. Look at it as a natural continuation of the pleasuring eroticism process. It makes total sense. Now, when McCarthy's talking about transitioning to your sexual style, there's complementary, which is mine and yours, recognizes personal responsibility for the sexual mantra, and that couple sexuality is an intimate team process. Traditional. The couple accepts the traditional male-female gender roles in the sexual relationship. Men focus on initiation, intercourse frequency, and women on intimacy and affection. There's also best friend, soulmate, high levels of intimacy and mutuality, loving feelings, communication. Secure attachment is valued more than eroticism in this sexual style. And last but not least, it's emotionally expressive, which is fun and erotic. Most fun and erotic sexual style, this one is. And you set your own relational and sexual rules. It's also the most flexible and resilient, including recovering from extramarital affairs. So the ideal scenario would be mutual synchronistic sex, something that we should aim for. Both people feel desire, pleasure, erotically charged, and satisfied. But what usually happens? It's asynchronistic sex. So it's better for one partner than the other. Usually it's better for the man up to age 40. And after age 65, it's better for the woman. So sexuality should never be a one-size-fits-all. So what can we do after the baby arrives to reignite our intimacy with each other? First of all, spend time together without the baby. I know sometimes it's hard, right? You need to find a babysitter. Then you need, okay, we're going to go out. Well, here, let me tell you something. Don't find a babysitter and go out and decide to go to the movies. Because what are you doing? You're watching a movie, but you're not communicating. And then afterwards, even if you are, that was a great movie. Maybe talking about the movie. No. You need to spend time together, talking, communicating, right? Building intimacy. I don't know. Are you familiar with the show Outlander? I love that show. It's on Stars. And, I don't know. You might know the song, "Sing me a song of a lass that is gone. Say, could that lass be I? Mary of soul, she sailed on a day over the sea to sky." It's the theme song. Anyway, it's about Claire, who travels back in time, and she meets this dashing Highlander named Jamie. And so what happens is they get married. Now, it's not like she wanted to get married. She married him because she was told she had to marry him. And, because, back in the 1700s, independent women, please. There were no independent women. You either got married or you went into the convent, or if you stayed single, you were dependent on the male in the family to take care of you. So whoever was in charge of the family, right? So she's told she has to marry Jamie, and she barely knows him. So they get married, and they, all the men are celebrating in the tavern, and there, she and Jamie are up in a room above the tavern. And so they're deciding, well, okay, is this it? We're just going to do it? Or what? And so they begin to talk and ask questions. And she begins to ask him questions about, his childhood and how he grew up and his family. And they talk for hours. They establish this bond. And, they're sitting and eating and talking, and they get to know each other before they do the act. They were, it was like the TV show would say, but they established this relationship almost like in the beginning, this best friend relationship, a security, and it's healthy, and there's acceptance of each other, and they're very vulnerable with each other. Here's something else you can do to establish intimacy. Reclaim your space, the bedroom. So no pictures of kids in the bedroom. Try not to let them sleep with you. No TV in the bedroom. Put down your phone an hour before. Your tablet. Don't leave those in the bedroom. I know sometimes you want to charge it next to your bed, and that can be a temptation because you want to look at it. But try reading a book before bed if you're going to. You need to, kind of relax your mind and get it to go somewhere else, before you go to sleep. But, no screens in there. It messes with your, with your sleep, and just this space should be your space for the two of you. Focus on psychosexual skill exercises. So desire directly instead of indirectly, and direct, touch. Be comfortable with touch. My ex-husband, I had told him that, he should go for a massage. This is when we were married. Maybe to help you with your stress, you should go for a massage. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to like this. I'm going for a massage. I don't know. Well, just try it. What have you got to lose? And try. He comes home from the massage, and I said, how was it? It was terrible. I can't stand it. I can't stand being touched. Every time she touched me, I jumped. Okay. Sure enough, when I went to get my next massage, my massage therapist tells me, your husband, he would jump every time that I touch him, and he's like a string, guitar string that's just pulled too tight. It's just so he's on the phone with his mom, and he's telling her about this and how uncomfortable he was and what a horrible experience it was. And she says, she's going, oh yeah, I know exactly how I feel the same way. I would never want, to do that. And I don't know how people could stand getting a massage and da-da-da-da. So I'm listening to this, and because he's saying, see, my mom understands what I'm going through. So I said, can you put her on the phone? Sure. And he's looking at me. He's like, what are you going to say to my mother? And at the time, my mother-in-law had a very bad cold, and she was sick for quite a few days. And I said, Ma, you don't like, you're the same as him. You don't like to, no. I'm like, so how did you have sex? She started to laugh, but she started coughing, and she's hacking up a lung. I kid you not. She's coughing, and finally the phone goes dead. She hung up on me. It's like, oh my God. I look at my ex, and he goes, what? I go, you better hung up on me. Well, of course she hung up on you. I can't believe you would ask her that. Oh no. Okay. Well, one day goes by. I don't hear from her. 2, 3. I'm thinking, oh no, I'm in the doghouse. I am in so much trouble. Oh, my mother-in-law's going to hate me. I don't know what she's thinking about me. Oh no. So finally I call her. I said, Ma, how are you doing? Oh, I'm doing I'm doing much better. Thank you. Uh, I'm really sorry if I, offended you when I asked you that or whatever, because, you hung up. I hung up because I was laughing so hard. I couldn't, and because I was coughing so much that I couldn't catch my breath. And so I hung up. Wow. Okay. I'm like, this is a good thing. And she goes, you know what, Lisa? She says, I was feeling so bad. And because I was so sick and I was so sad. And you made me laugh. I have been laughing for 3 days. I'm like, oh, thank God. It's here I thought I was in so much trouble. So, exactly. So, there's a story about being comfortable with touch. I know sometimes it can be hard, but, it can be tough. But, try to be comfortable with touch. So, also, here's something. Your partner says what they value about you, the other, and then make 1 to 3 requests of the partner that makes them more attractive. So, you may, say you tell your partner what you value about them, and then you might mention 1 to 3 things that you don't find attractive about them, and how they could change those things to become more attractive. Now, I'm not saying that you insult them. I'm saying, say you're upset, you're tired because, you are taking care of the kids after dinner, you're getting their homework done, whatever. You're giving them a bath, you're getting them ready for bed, you're reading them a story, you're finally getting them to bed, and then you get to bed, and then, hey, honey, why don't we? And you're like, no, I'm tired. Well, but you want your partner to help you out. If your partner helped you out in 1 or 2 of those things, then maybe you'd have some energy left for being intimate later on in the evening, right? So instead of saying, you know what, you never help me, and this is why you wonder why I'm not in the mood, because I'm so freaking tired. Why not? If you would help me, then no. This is what you do, honey. When you read a story to the kids and you spend some time with the kids, I find that very attractive. Sometimes I see maybe he is wrestling with the kids. Of course, he's playing with the kids, bonding with the kids. But he's also tiring the kids out. They're going to go to bed. Much easier. So, honey, when you play with the kids, it tires them out, maybe if you played with them a little more, they would go to bed quicker and we can have more time together. So if you phrase it that way, maybe you'll get some help with this, right? So here's something else. Find a trust position that is safe and secure. And like Dr. Barry McCarthy says, do it in the nude. So what is a trust position? Spooning. Sitting, face to face with your legs around each other, arms around each other, staring into each other's eyes. You're to be physically connected. Try that exercise. And find your preferred scenario for intimacy, pleasure, eroticism, and satisfaction. Something else that you can do to rekindle the intimacy with your partner is scheduling sex or together time. Now, I know people think that if it's not spontaneous, that it isn't fun or exciting. But how often, with kids, you have to schedule this time. And here's the thing: when you schedule it, you're anticipating it, and anticipation creates desire. So think of it this way. You need to stoke the fire from time to time. The fire, it may not be hot or bright, but we don't want the kindling to go out. Got it? So what to do after this, after you listen to this? You know what? First, I'm going to let you in on some stats that I just found quite intriguing. You know, the most common time for affairs are the first 5 years of marriages for men and the first 2 years for women. Also, affair sex is more highly charged and erotic. So, right? So to compare it to marriage sex, it's the limerence phase, right? The first 6 months to 2 years of your relationship, times 3, right? So it's that in love, being in love, but there's also secrecy, breaking boundaries, risk taking. So if you're having an affair and you think that, if you're going to break off that affair and try and work on your marriage, and you compare the sex in both relationships, the married sex is not going to compare to the affair sex because of all those extra things that are going on during that time. So, married couples have the lowest instance of affairs. Cohabiting couples have higher instance of affairs. One out of 5 married couples have intercourse sex less than 10 times a year. Usually, this happens within the first 2 years of marriage. I never knew that. So, what is a sexless marriage? Sexless marriage doesn't mean we're not having sex at all. In the therapy world, a sexless marriage is defined as having sex less than 10 times a year. And here's the big secret. Low sexual desire isn't just a woman's problem. It's just as much as a man's problem. So here are a couple, resources for you. So Dr. Barry McCarthy has written quite a few books. I think there's like 17 books, something like that. But Contemporary Male Sexuality, Rekindling Desire, came out in 2020. Enhancing Couple Sexuality, Finding Your Sexual Voice. I have Sex Made Simple. And I read that, and I read Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski. She's a PhD. And she, both of these books, they say a lot of the same thing. They just say it in a different way. And so you might be reading one and you don't really connect to it, but read the other, and it's written in a different, in a different way, and you might connect with that. Come As You Are, there, just by reading the introduction, there are things that I didn't know about my own body that I found out through this book. Now, you take anatomy and physiology in college, and the reason I took anatomy and physiology, believe it or not, is my voice teacher, because I was a music major, and I had a concentration in voice. So she says, you should take anatomy and physiology, learn how the body works, so that you become a better singer, which totally made sense. But the things that they talk about in that Dr. Nagosi talks about in Come As You Are, you're not going to, and we should, but we don't discuss those in anatomy and physiology class. So it's really if couples read either of these books before getting into a serious relationship or marriage, so many issues would not even come to fruition. Like they wouldn't, because there's so much to learn. When I had love class last year, one of the things I talk about is, if you want to become a nurse, you go to school, right? You want to become an electrical engineer, you go to school, you study. Because you want to know more. You recognize that you don't know those things, but you have an interest in it. And then you go to school and you learn more and then you get your degree, right? Well, love is the same way. Connection is the same way. The thing is, we don't go to school to learn how to love. We learn by examples that are around us. And if those examples aren't healthy examples, that's going to affect how we relate to others and how we love others and how much love we have in our lives. So to read a book about sex, about love, about relationships isn't because, if someone sees me reading these things, they might think I'm an idiot because how could I don't know about that. No, it's not second nature. We need to learn these things. If you want to become a better lover, read books about, each of these things, relationships, marriage, love, the human body. And, it's just, your life will be so much more, fulfilled. So Dr. Barry McCarthy, Dr. Emily Nagoski, come as you are. There are a couple TED Talks I found interesting. The Sex-Starved Marriage by Michelle Weiner Davis. And Maureen McGrath, who's an RN and the host of the Sunday Night Health Show, gave a TED Talk titled No Sex Marriage. And one of the things that she says in there, which is really, I thought was interesting, was men cheat to stay in the marriage. Women cheat to get out of the marriage. So sit with that and think about that. Now, this is what you can do. I'm going to give you some homework. So, first, like I said, spend time without baby, schedule date night, schedule sex and time together. Like Dr. McCarthy talks about non-demand touch. So, you're touching someone, and not to have that expectation of something in return. You want to pleasure them. But here's some homework. I want you to stare into each other's eyes and tell each other 3 things you value of that person. That might be hard. It might be hard just to stare into each other. Just stare. Take one step at a time. Just stare into each other's eyes. Even if you want to put a timer on it. Even if you want to put a timer like 25 seconds, we're going to stare each other's eyes. And maybe then try it again some other time. And then maybe work up to the 3 things you value of that person. It would be easy, I know. It might be easier to write down those things and, have the other person read it sometime. But this is going to create that connection, that physical connection. Even though you're staring, you have to stare into the other person's eyes and tell them those 3 things. Okay? So talk to each other, compliment each other. And try that exercise. And on the Facebook page, the Holistic Health Coach Podcast Life Facebook page, let me know in the comments how that worked for you. Thanks for joining me today. Thanks for listening to the Holistic Life Coach Podcast. Show notes can be found at the Holistic Life Coach Podcast Facebook page. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts so you can find out immediately when the next episode drops. Until next time, beautiful souls,